Hey guys, Adam here, and I just wanted to go over how I booked Clay about 100 unintentional demos. Now, the first thing I want to say is that the relationship between Clay and Stellar Growth is mutual, so we help each other out, and it's all in good fun that I'm saying I booked them 100 demos without a lot of benefit to myself. That's not entirely true. But the campaign that I launched, I think, is a great campaign for Clay in general. It just so happened that it was less good for my own business. It was very operationally intense. So what is the campaign that we ran? About 3 to 6 months ago, the entire campaign went from 6 months ago to 3 months ago. We decided to launch a campaign, and the copywriting is something like, hey, notice you were following Clay. Did you know that you can map X signal in Clay using Clay plus N8N? Here's how to do it. Here's why I think it's a good idea. And that email did extremely well, as you can see. I sent about 200 emails a day, and from that, I was booking 1 to 2 demos per day. Now, why did the idea not work out? Well, I think that part of it was that the actual research and knowledge that went into responding to people who were interested in this was quite intense, and then I obviously had to actually show up to the demo and kind of prove to them that this idea was possible. And yeah, just it kind of didn't end up really going anywhere. We booked about, I think, since over the last year, we booked about 100 calls from this type of campaign, and I think maybe 1 or 2 of them ended up actually converting to being our customers. So I'm happy to give Clay the business. I definitely should have been more aggressive about how I was actually giving out my referral code and things like that. So I pulled all the Clay followers. By now, most people know, and you can use following with 2gs.co to scrape your LinkedIn followers. So shout out to Nico, who runs following. I think it's a great business, and you will actually get your lead list on time if you use him. No bias here, and I'm not getting any money from him. So what did we actually run here? We pulled about 3,000 out of the 36,000 total over the last year of Clay followers. I've actually run campaigns in 2024 with a different angle, and I've separated 2024 Clay followers new and 2025 Clay followers new. And yeah, so basically what we did was I asked AI, and here's the prompt. You can kind of see it if it ever loads. The bigger the table, the bigger the prompts. You know what I'm saying? We used O3 for this. That's interesting. I told AI through ClayGent to identify 2 unique data sources for streaming table suggestions that pull niche data that is highly relevant to company name, that they could use Clay and N8N webhooks to monitor for their ICP. And then I gave it an example of the prospect's ICP by using another ClayGent prompt to find each person's ICP. And the really cool thing about this is that this prompt works no matter what the person's role is, no matter what company they're at. It will find something to suggest to them, and most of these ideas are going to be net new. Like the people that I'm emailing and be like, wow, that's cool. I didn't know I could do that. How do you actually do this? So I give it some context on basically what a streaming table is, or a signal, or a trigger is, whatever the hell you want to call it. And then I give it some goals. It must be independently useful. This provides value. The prospect has probably not heard of this. And some of the stuff comes from Jordan Crawford, by the way, so it's not all me. And then I tell it, return these 2 or 3 data triggers, streaming tables, whatever you want to call them. And so just to give you some examples of what a streaming table would look like, it could be funding news for SaaS companies that hit X funding amount, or it could be G2 reviews about competitors that are like, you can reach out to the people on G2 if you have an account, identify the company that's like posting a negative review about a competitor, and then reach out to them. But we'll go over some of the specific ideas that it came up with. A lot of the companies on here are tech or SaaS related, and so a lot of the triggers related to GitHub. I think literally over 10%, 20% were referring to GitHub, and actually Clay does have a nice setup so that you can pull some of that stuff. I do think that a lot of the GitHub ideas that AI were suggesting were not possible. And that brings me to another point about why this campaign wasn't super successful, is that a lot of these trigger ideas are so specific that I don't know if they would provide a lot of leads. Like a specific keyword used on GitHub might, or a specific repository might get, a couple people through it occasionally. And so what I had to do is, when someone positively responded to the email that I'll show you, I had to go validate the idea, make sure it was possible, and then respond to the person that was interested. And so let's look at a couple examples. Like I said, we were finding ICP and then feeding that into the streaming table ideas thing. And we were also summarizing the streaming table idea in the subject line. So that was another really cool thing. Every email and every subject line was basically completely unique to the company and person that we're emailing. Multiple people at the same company would get a completely different email. But in general, we tried to reach out to people in sales, marketing, growth, RevOps, business development, demand generation, because they are the ones who care about getting leads. At the end of the day, what this idea was a way to get a lot of these people who are following Clay to implement it and then to generate leads. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, signals should be generating leads. So this was like a top-down approach where we find a bunch of people, and then we identify one signal or one streaming table idea that works for all of them. And I am a big fan. I don't always think it works out. I'm a big fan of that top-down approach, rather than finding the list of people that all have one signal and then sending outreach to them. This kind of gets towards the holy grail of prompts, right? Which is an AI prompt that would work for anyone at any company and always make a relevant email. And I think it is a little bit of a fool's errand to do that, because I think the less granular you are, the less personalized and less specific the email will be. But because we know these people are following Clay and interested in it, we had a reasonable opinion that they would be interested in this. So custom subject line, custom email. Let's read some of them. So, hey Paul, have you tried using city permit data? Oh, this was spin tax too, so it's gonna be a little harder to read. That's another cool thing you can do with Clay and AI. I had it insert its specific recommendations with AI into Spintax so that I could use both Spintaxing and AI to ensure that the emails were as diverse as possible. So have you tried using the signal idea, city permit data, state procurement portals as a streaming data source to find your ICP? In this case, event organizers needing aerial displays. I did a little digging and realized we could build an evergreen flow of potential customers by tracking special events permits, pyrotechnic RFPs every day with Clay and NAN, identifying a decision maker, and then sending an email to them. I think it's a good idea because you catch organizers right when they're planning outdoor events and looking for alternatives to traditional fireworks. I have more too, would be worth chatting about, is basically the entire email. So I haven't really saved a lot of great examples like up front, but as you can see from, I don't want to give out people's personal emails because YouTube will not be happy about that when I post this video eventually, but a 6.46% response rate and a about 1 in 3 people responded positively to this. Even the ones that weren't interested drove the campaign along. And so really insane. I think that Clay should probably just go adopt this workflow and have a team on personally giving demos, especially to high value targets. The reason why this didn't make sense for me is I'm not an enterprise sales team. It took me, I think on average, 30 minutes per response. I would make them a custom lead magnet, basically telling them here's how I plan the idea, and it would also have like 10 other ideas of things that I would like to implement. And then I would sell my services in the demo call, ideally. But kind of skipping the discovery call, that's another problem with this email, is that you get right into the meat of an engagement without really deciding if it actually makes sense to implement this stuff. but I am very confident that every idea we came up with and every company has some use for this. So I think it's a good idea. Just to break down, email 2 was a lot shorter. So if we go to what my follow-up was, it was basically, for a moment, could I send you a video explaining the subject line, which also doubled as the summary of the idea. And that had a way higher response rate, which kind of just makes sense. Let's flip through. Let's just see if I can find some examples. It's completed, so I don't know if I can see any examples. Let me just see. Edit and relaunch. Let's preview the email body for some of these. Monitoring carrier violations. Hey, Roman, are you already using the FMCSA safety violation updates as a buying signal source to find carriers needing compliance automation? I looked into this and realized we could create an evergreen stream of potential leads by tracking recently penalized carriers daily with Clay and N8N, locating a decision maker, and then send them outreach. I think it's a good idea because these carriers urgently need companies' workflow automation to address compliance issues and prevent future penalties. Have a few more. Would it be worth having a short conversation to discuss the secret sauce? So that's a little bit of my own personality in there. And that's basically it. That's the whole idea. I don't want to give out a bunch of people's personal emails if I don't have permission. But if I were to go into the replies, you would see me sort of struggling with delivering enough value to get people interested in meetings. And like I said, 30 minutes required per meeting. And then I think if I'm being critical of my own idea, it was just difficult to convert people into the service that I actually wanted them to be in, or work with us for, which was, like outbound, like, hey, here's a signal idea. Well, you need inboxes and you need to actually do messaging for this to make sense. Like, do you have that? And a lot of the people using Clay are already kind of on the up and up and do that. And so many people just wanted like a one-time quick signals implementation, which I think probably doesn't make sense. But I think this is a really interesting way to get teams that already have some GTM or some technical sales infrastructure and team to book these meetings. So yeah, I think in total, I know for sure it's over 100 meetings. This specific campaign booked, I have to go last 120 days. Specific campaign booked 51. I think the other one that I have is like over 70. And so this was a ton of calls. Hope you guys found this interesting. Let me know if you want any of the resources I talked about here.